Hello, my name is Brayton Oski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're listening to and watching The Inner Gamer On.
And today we'll be talking about the new game, Outriders. Is it worth your time? We played the demo. We're talking about the Game Pass release. We're talking about all the story content and the post-game content. All that and more right here. If you are looking to buy this game and not sure if you're ready for it, check out this video. You will definitely be able to make your decision after this. So let's jump on in.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, because YouTube requires a lot from the viewers. We're sorry. We didn't want this, but this is how it is. So, thanks.
Outriders. Is this game going to be worth your time? And we still have our friends here at Sword Chomp with us, and we're going to be diving into just the game Outriders, what it's all going to entail, what they're promising for us, and will this game actually be something that's going to stick and keep us going for a long time, or will it go the way of potentially Godfall, where it might not keep us engaged as much as we want to? So before we get into some of the features and stuff like that, they did just announce last week that this game will be a day one Game Pass game, only on Xbox though. It will not be on PC. So if you're an Xbox player, you will be able to play this on your Game Pass on day one, which is great, except for I really wish it was on PC. So
same.
Very bummed about that, but hopefully they changed it. I'm curious to know, because I don't know if y'all they have Destiny on Game Pass, and that came out only on Xbox as well, but it will come out on PC 6 months later. So I'm curious if they'll do the same thing with this, where it'll be a delayed release on PC.
Maybe they might have some kind of exclusivity PC deal with Steam or something that could lead to decisions like that. That's the only thing I could think of that sort of blocks that potentially.
But yeah, I mean, Game Pass is interesting. I mean, I don't know what that says about their excitement around the game, if they want to release it here or if they think the sales are going to be not as good. But the demo came out. We've all played it. We've talked about it. What were y'all's impressions of the demo overall?
Aesthetically, it was very much and I think this is by nature of looking at the game and the outside looking in. I went in with a lot of Destiny level expectations, and I think with the abilities, the way they couple with the shooting and stuff, there's a lot of that. And then obviously this is from people who people can fly, which is they did a Gears of War game, and then it also gives me a lot of cover shooter Gears of War vibes. Neither one of those is a bad thing, but I have been referring to it as Gears of Destiny whenever asked about it.
Environments are gorgeous. I love the aesthetic of it. Play itself, I was kind of just not leaning one way or the other. It is what it is at this point. I'm not the biggest at currently. I play a lot of other kinds of games. So this being another cover shooter, I'm just kind of okay, it is what it is at this point. But I think promise. Don't know if that necessarily is going to in terms of a really good game, which is why I think it's important that they're putting it on Game Pass, because I feel like kind of the opinion I've had is similar to what the general population has had. So it gives this game the chance to, I think the best chance to succeed, besides putting it on PC Game Pass, is by putting it on Game Pass. A lot of the people who are tepid on it will be able to try it day one. And if they feel like, it's not the best use of my time, they already are paying for Game Pass. So it's no harm, no foul.
I think we're frozen there. But
yeah, we lost him.
I agree that I think the Game Pass thing is going to be really interesting, because I'm hopeful that because of the fact that this isn't being pitched as a live service, and looking back at Marvel's Avengers, I use that as a recent example just because I'm still somehow obsessed with that game. But that was a live service game, and clearly when that game came out, there was a lot of things that they designed to be around the live service component to it that I feel was a hindrance to the game experience. Because there's even a piece in the campaign of Marvel's Avengers where it's hey, go do the live service things just so you see that it exists. And I'm okay, well, that just screwed up the whole flow and
pacing
in the story. And in this one, it's no, this is literally just a campaign that you play through. And then after you beat the campaign with your friends, then it's which is supposed to be a 40-hour campaign, which I think is pretty awesome that it's going to be that long. So that should be an extensive amount of stuff. But then they also have the in-game content with the expeditions that they've talked about that it sounds like it's going to be almost like the equivalent of like a Destiny strike, or even more so. It might even be like a mini raid in a sense. That's going to be a lot more intense and more heavily involved with complexity. And there's even like tiers of like difficulty that you can select when you're playing the expeditions that will yield higher level loot based on how hard you want to make the experience. So there could be a lot of replayability here with just grinding to get the better loot. And my biggest thing is just like there wasn't enough of a taste of the loot in the demo for me to really get a feel for what they're like. I never got any legendary drops. I heard there was a few legendary drops that could be achieved in the demo, but I never saw any. But I'm curious
I didn't see anything like that either.
How much of that will pique my interest and get me going, because the loot's what really is going to probably matter here, especially if the story is like not as great. But as far as the story goes, I mean, what were y'all's kind of thoughts on the story?
It didn't wow me. I mean, it seemed we're getting the beginning of the game. Like, I'd be interested to see where it goes, but everything we're seeing is sort of very generic sci-fi tropey stuff. I mean, the early opening is we destroyed Earth, which, checks out. So you are landing on a new planet you are hoping to make your home, and it's kind of this like forward expedition to make sure it's habitable, and it's playing it safe isn't even the right word to use it. It's just like, we've seen these sort of sci-fi ideas before, and how well executed it is, I think it's going to take more time for me to say one way or the other. I don't think anything's like standing out to me as like, this is dumb, but nothing that's exactly jumping out and being like, this is so amazingly unique either.
I pretty much feel the same way as Rich. It was interesting in theory just because I love sci-fi stuff, but nothing really grabbed me, unfortunately. But we're getting a small snippet. I mean, we're getting the very beginning of it. So yeah, I have hopes that it will be expanded upon a lot more. And it will make it more interesting.
Yeah.
As I play it on Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as I saw like the different like biomes you can go travel to, like, I mean, the very beginning of the game where before the shit hits the fan and everything goes out of control, it's like, oh, that's like a beautiful green lush world and universe, and then all of a sudden it's like now it's like dark and gritty and just like everything's brown and lacking of color because they destroyed the planet basically. But as I saw like later game content, there's a lot of really interesting looking locations that you can travel to. And I was actually, one of the things that shocked me most about this game is I didn't realize it would be so linearly kind of path, kind of like Borderlands style, like like level design, where instead of it being, hey, you have this big mat, like open area you can go travel in like all different directions. It's like, no, here's these like corridors of pathways that branch out in different ways that you can go to, or like Remnant from the Ashes. I think that's another good comparison of what this is, except minus, well, we haven't seen many boss battles yet, but I'm curious to see what the bigger boss encounters will be like, especially as we get in like expeditions and things of that nature. But I was surprised that it wasn't, I had in my mind it was open world, and then it's not an open world, and that might be a good thing, but just I guess it's kind of like the thing I had with Godfall, because like with Godfall, I had this vision in my head that it was going to be more not so Diablo-like, I guess, and more akin to like what Avengers is minus the live content stuff with like the loot grinds. But instead it's like Godfall is like, you don't really have a lot of, I mean, you have loot, but really it's like your character was, you had this like outfit that you chose that was basically like your whole entire essence of who you were. And I didn't,
your character is loot in some sense in that game.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was weird to me. But in this one, it's like you got the loot, you got the upgrades. I saw stuff on the mods that the mods like can enhance your weapons in a lot of different ways. It seems really interesting. You got the skill tree, which I was glad to see that you can respec it anytime you want, which is nice. So there's some cool stuff here for like changing up your gameplay quite a bit as you progress through the game.
So I'm actually excited about this game, and I guess I'm evolving as a gamer because for some reason I like Marvel's Avengers, and if you listen to all the other podcasts, I should shit on that game because there were a lot of problems with it, but I think this game is very similar to Destiny, and I was super hyped for Destiny. I loved Halo, all the Halo games. I guess Halo 4 wasn't that bad. Anyway, I thought this was like the next best thing that was going to come out for Destiny, and getting all pumped. And we saw some trailers about what the stories might be like and how the game might play. And that early video doc on it was like complete. Well, somewhere along the line after that, the game completely changed, and obviously we got what we got, and it wasn't that great. And there's some good stuff there, and I really like the gameplay in Destiny. But coming here, like jumping into this game, it helps that I didn't know much about it. I really didn't get involved early on with like what's going on. It's like, oh, okay, it's another one of those games. I don't really care. But jumping into it and seeing that there is some sort of like they took the time to have a style with their cinematics, which a lot of games just have like, this guy's talking and here's a close up, and then this other guy's talking, so here's another close up, and then maybe something important happens and they do something different, but for the most part, every interaction is the same. And I saw some really interesting stuff with the camera work, which, for me being a film guy, like already that's awesome. And I would say the story isn't anything to really talk about, like you guys said, but I think there's enough there for suspension of disbelief to kind of jump into this game and be like, okay, like I get it. Like I understand. I don't need a lot of
not everything needs to be expanded upon in some major way.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, new planet, we're settling it, sci-fi bullshit.
Yeah, we know the story. Okay, the Earth's breaking down because of global warming or whatever. We trashed it, and now we got to come over here. It's like, okay, cool. And I think the archetypal characters that they have that you get to know early on are enough to actually fall in love with. Because for me, when that spoilers, when that one guy gets shot randomly, it's like I didn't want him to die. He had a family and stuff, and I thought the acting was good enough for me to actually get attached to these characters. For this game, and that doesn't happen very often. So like I was shocked. And then the point where, another spoiler, you're hurt after the storm, and I guess you finally get your powers, but you don't know you have powers, and that woman throws you into like a cryo chamber for you to sleep, and then you wake up later, and it's like I knew that the game was going to be crazy, but I didn't know how we're going to get there, and somehow they threw a curveball at me, and I didn't realize. I was like, holy shit, like didn't see this coming. And then you go and like talk to that girl who put you in the cryo chamber, but you didn't know it was her, and she's still alive, and she's like a complete 180 of who she was. And I thought they did a good job of like showing that, or just having that duality to that person, which you never would have thought would be like this hardcore, I guess, military type person, when her character was so like happy-go-lucky, the future's bright, and everything's going to be good, and she's innocent. And I was like, yes, like this is what I want in a video game. I want this kind of stuff. And no, it's not the best story of all time, but I felt like there's enough there that has me excited for it. And I'm trying not to be excited because I've been let down in the past too many times.
We've all learned being excited is a mistake, and we should avoid it at all costs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't as like hyped on the story as like Austin was, but I still am. Like I've been hyped on this game for a while just because I like what People Can Fly has done. Like I was one of the ones that did really have a blast with Bulletstorm. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like I knew that one didn't have a great story, but it was like stupid fun in a lot of ways. And this one is a lot more serious in its tone, but I just think that the fact that they are focusing in on like what you get in this game when you buy it is like all of the content. And if there's going to be like 60, 70 hours of time where I can sit here and play the 40-hour campaign plus another hopefully 20 or 30 hours of like these expeditions with my friends, like that's
worth your money.
Yeah.
Isn't it sad that that's a selling point to us at this point? They're like, this is the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when Squadrons came out and they like learned their lesson after the last several failures with EA, where they were like, oh yeah, this doesn't have microtransactions. There's no extra content.
And then EA abandoned that game immediately.
Right? Well, it's like, damn.
You look at like, obviously we know these AAA publishers are like, yeah, we got to make money. We got to do all this stuff and appease the shareholders and things. And that's why they go these routes, because they see it as like that pass
They
their money.
need to
So
show
gaming
revenue
service.
streams. Yeah.
Right. And for some, like if you go to People Can Fly and go to their, I just lost it. Anyway, they have like a whole like history of like where they've been, and for only having 3 games, I'm impressed. Like what they've done. Is it career maybe?
Well, because they did Judgment, didn't they?
Gears of War Judgment, yeah.
That was their title, and I know there was support on like a lot of the other Gears games, but which I never played Judgment, so I don't know anything about it. I stopped playing Gears after like 2.
Fine. It's definitely not my favorite Gears game. I'm one of the what I would call a Gears of War apologists, where I think 5 is actually very good.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to play 5. I actually think no, it's on Game Pass, so I can't play it. It's right there.
4 is to me was kind of a weird misstep, and then I think 5 course corrected more than enough. That it's far from perfect, but I like what it did.
Yeah.
So these guys have 5 studios around the world, and they've been like 2020 was like a big year for them.
They make board games too. I'm pretty sure.
I'm like, where did they've only have 3 games. 2 of them, I'm like, okay, I played Bulletstorm, which was fun, but they got like the Gears game, like I never played that one. The one that they created, and I'm just like, where are these people coming from, and how are they evolving? Like, how did they expand? Like, who are their investors? Like, for me, like it's out of left field,
Epic
and that's
Games,
what's really
man.
impressive.
They got Epic Games that runs.
I mean, that's
stuff.
true. Yeah, but still, it's like that was enough to get them all these. Apparently, people believe in them enough to give them a bunch of money to expand. I feel like there's not enough out there to really understand if they can. They have 18 years of experience, which is awesome. But can they really pull it off? They're like their own IP type thing, and maybe
they also made a game called Painkiller in 2004.
Yeah,
right.
that was a popular game, I think.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. Apparently, it used to be called Epic Games Poland in 2013 for a little bit.
Yes,
and then they went back to being People Can Fly.
And then it seems, they had their hands in pretty much the first 3 Gears of War. Developed Judgment on their own. They've worked on Fortnite. They've worked on Unreal Tournament. So they've got a pedigree.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk on like classes and just like the gameplay, kind of moment to moment gameplay and stuff like that. As like you're playing through co-op and things. What we talked about how this feels like. I mean, because it comes from Gears of War, I feel like this is definitely branded as like a cover shooter kind of feeling game. But I'm curious, when y'all were playing, did you feel that, because like when I was playing, for example, Pyromancer, I think Pyromancer class was the first one that I chose. And
that was what I played as well.
Yeah, I'm like hiding behind stuff and trying to go cover to cover. And I felt like I was getting my butt kicked, like hardcore. And then I started to break out of cover and engage more with my class abilities and kind of get more in the front lines. And I felt like I was playing better through that process, to where I was like, it has the cover shooter like mechanics, but it also kind of tries to encourage you to play outside of cover and engage and move in on the enemy more. Did y'all feel that same way, or is it just something that I encountered during my playthrough?
I think you're right. I think a lot of that is probably the squad-based tactic stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of it's built around like you're gonna have somebody like lay down suppressive fire while you kind of like get out in the opening and start using your abilities and stuff. Mm-hmm. Because while the cover is beneficial, it's hard to use those abilities while you're hunkered down out there, and you kind of gotta push forward and get in the shit.
Yeah. Did you ever play with a full 3-person squad, or were you? How
I did not. Just me.
Just you. Okay. What about you, Shea?
Scared. I'm scared to talk.
I know. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I hear you now.
Okay, good. No, I felt very similarly. Like, for me, I think the biggest struggle I had, not that it's the game, it's more myself, is figuring out kind of like a balance of when to use the abilities and when to just kind of go guns blazing. Things I always struggle with these kind of games, especially when you start integrating a bunch of abilities and stuff. Yeah, I played the same class that you guys did as well, and it's not that the balance isn't there. It's just like the balance issue within me of trying to micromanage all of those systems and whatnot gets a little bit overwhelming. But it was a fun class to play. What little of it that I did play, for sure. Yeah, for me, I would probably have to sit down and play it a little bit more to get more comfortable with trying to, how would I word that? basically integrate all those systems and for it to be fluid in combat.
Yeah. So did anybody play any other of the classes besides Pyro, or did you mostly just focus on that one?
Just Pyro for me.
Yeah. So I will say from like, because when I played with I played a lot of different ways. Like I started solo, played Pyromancer. Me and Austin played a little bit. Austin, you were playing Devastator first, right? That was your first.
I was playing
class
Devastator.
type. And then later on, after I like leveled up the Pyromancer, I went back and switched to the Technomancer. And then I had a friend that I was playing with that was playing the Trickster. And when we had that too, this is when I started realizing like how important the class system was to this game, was when the two of us were playing in like an arena area. We were fighting all these bad guys. As a Technomancer, the Technomancer is more long range and has a lot of like gadgets and abilities that he can throw out. Like I can throw out a turret that like fires at the nearest enemy for me and like takes people out, or I can do another ability that will it's like a rocket barrage that will just like literally like it's my ultimate ability essentially, that I can set it down and it'll just fire like a stream of rockets at whatever enemy is out there while I'm sitting back and like, you know, providing covering fire or whatever it might be. And he had the ability to use like space and time manipulation or whatever. So what we would do is like whenever we had a crowd of people together, he can throw down this ability that creates this like orb thing that it's like a stasis effect that like slows all the characters down inside of it. And then I would send a rocket barrage into that stasis effect and just deal like a shit ton of damage. And then I was like, if I have a Pyromancer there, they could then send fire into that same like stasis bubble and just have like this triple team kind of thing where you can just AoE people hardcore. And once I started seeing that, I was like, okay, this isn't just like a, you know, standard cover shooter kind of thing. Like these abilities really matter a lot. And if you can figure out the best ways to like combine them, and I'm really excited to see how the skill tree evolves, since they didn't really give us much exposure to the skill tree in the demo. But like, I'm curious to see how that progresses forward and how that enhances all of your abilities in the later game, because just seeing those dynamics between the different classes was really, really cool. And then suddenly I went from like, okay, I'm dying like every 5 seconds to we're like a force to be reckoned with, and now we're just pulverizing these different people. We're able to turn up the difficulty a lot more because of the fact that we've figured out kind of the meta of the game a lot quicker, I guess. But that stuff I'm really excited about. So I also highly recommend the Technomancer because I was having a blast with that character. It was a lot of fun. Not that
the name alone always sells me on stuff. I'm like, Technomancer's just a good name.
Yeah.
Apparently, People Can Fly put out how many people actually played each class, and it was almost pretty even across the board.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, because like, I mean, usually I end up playing a tank character, but for some reason I just never picked the Devastator. I guess because he was close, like labeled as a close range character. So I never went that route. But it is kind of.
He's the tanky guy.
Yeah,
you could put like the ground like surrounds you for the ultimate and become. I think you take like 60% less damage for a few seconds or whatever. And then you got this like jump in the air and ground slam and do like a lined vertical or horizontal a damage. And there's one other thing I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty fun. I'm hoping that it's gonna be where you can, you know, you just go in and level up each class and then you can kind of switch out from there.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like how Avengers has it where it's like you gotta level them up to like a certain point for them to be, I guess, kind of viable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of grinding on a lot of different characters, which is annoying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, too much work for sure. And I was seeing that they have like a crafting mechanic in this game where you can upgrade your weapons to like enhance the rarity, enhance the weapon level, which I guess the weapons, like your character class, I think caps at level 30, but the weapons cap at level 50. So each weapon can go up to 50 points or 50 for the level. And as they get upgraded, they can, I guess, get more status buffs or bonuses or whatever it might be. But you can use crafting materials to do that with. If you find a gun that you really, really like, you can continue. I guess you can level that up consistently. I'm curious to know, like, if you get like one of the first generation like common guns, if you're able to level that up to the point of being a legendary gun, or if it like limits you, like, okay, this gun can only go so far.
It caps, at a certain point.
But seeing that you can have those abilities a lot like Destiny with their different guns of just like, adding mod enhancements to turn it up a notch if you find yourself really liking the way a gun plays. I thought that was cool that stuff is all built in here. They seem to have really thought out the skills and class and like weapon system, and the later weapons, like the legendary weapons, look really, really cool. So I'm hyped.
Yeah, you become in game is just becoming an elemental god.
That's life. That's what we all strive for.
That's right.
That's what I want to be. Which I find to be hilarious that they picked April 1st. It's like you pick April Fool's Day to release your game.
Turns out this game isn't real.
Yeah. It's like
this was all
surprise. It's actually delayed.
They built that demo as part of the joke.
Yeah, right? Thanks for your money.
Like, this is actually Anthem 2.0.
Oh my god! If only. I'm cautiously optimistic we're going to see, if I can see a 7.5 or an 8 on this game on average, I'll be satisfied.
I can see an 8.
But hopefully it's like 9s and 10s. That'd be even better.
Fingers crossed. I always want to see somebody do well. Never rooting for failure. But we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our discussion this week, and we are also going to close out with our buddies here from Sword Chomp. So, it's been really great having you guys on the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. All the way over from Japan and New York, all over the world. This has been super exciting. Where can we find you guys on the internet? Where can our fans go and check y'all's content out?
So you can head over to swordchomp.com, and that'll pretty much direct you everywhere. All our podcasts that Shea mentioned earlier, Chompcast, Evoking the Sublime, In the Blood, Chomping After Dark are on iTunes, Spotify, all those fun podcast services. And we got merch, we got written reviews over on swordchomp.com, just everywhere, all over. We're on the Twitter at swordchomp. All the fun things.
Yeah. Yeah. And y'all said you stream. So when do y'all usually do your streams?
So for the live stream of the podcast, you can search Sword Chomp on Twitch, and we typically go live around 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday nights.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, Rich and Shea, it's been a pleasure having you all on the podcast. We really enjoyed it. And
thanks for inviting us.